Каждую ли компанию можно взломать? Сейчас мы
Can every company be broken? Right now, we're going to speak about the level of company defense
взламывать.
and how fast criminals can break into organizations. And we're going to speak about it together with Alexander Morozov, the head of pen testing department in Positive Technologies. Hello, Sasha. Hello, Vladimir. Okay, let's begin with the main question.
Взломать.
Can every company be broken? It's a very good question, but it's also a wide question. So I will give you a wide response. First of all, in the beginning, I would like to tell you what do we do, which projects do we have, types of the projects, and I can tell you also about approaches to hacking.
То есть ты так решил подготовить. Ну, понимаете, мы...
So you decided to prepare us, yours. We're doing this, this, and this, and this, and yes, every company can be broken in. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Can you do it? Well, you wanted to hear my reaction? I gave it to you. Well, we have a more scientific discussion, right? That's why I would like to convey to our viewers the full volume of information. Okay, let's look at it. We do projects. We analyze external perimeter defense. And the simplest example of the external perimeter is the website of the company. We analyze the level of internal infrastructure defense, and in 99% of the cases, speaking about the internal infrastructure, we mean domain of the Microsoft Active Directory. So this is a must-have for most of the companies. So these are accounts which everybody has authorization, mail authorization, how to work in the internal network. Well, simplifying the situation, yes, you're right. We also check information level of the users. We do phishing distributions, test phishing distributions. Also, we analyze wireless networks security. Also, we analyze security of the access control systems, RFID cards for the access to physical office or to a certain room in the office. So this is not the biggest part of our work. So from this point of view, I'm not going to emphasize too much. So you're looking at what can be broken, then you check the possibility of this vulnerability in the company to all possible vectors, all different ways of access, Wi-Fi, RFID cards, a corporate network, possibility of getting connected to from the external network to some infrastructural facility. Yes, these are projects where we are not limited by one vector, and we have complex, big projects. Very often they are related with the red team specifics, when our work is also being responded by the internal defense team, but most of our work is done on the basis of the contract, on the basis of the desire of any client to check something at this moment of time, like simulation of the hacker behavior. Yes, something like that. Each of these projects is one or another side of a simulation of hacker activities. Okay, let's go back to your question. Can any company be broken? Well, what's good about it? Anything that can be measured is good. Let's look at the numbers. Upon the results of our work, our colleagues from the analytical team, they make annual statistical reports, which are publicly accessible, of course, without any personification. You will not be able to find names of the clients, but these statistical reports are available in our ptsecurity.com internet site. And I would like to recommend you, please compare those reports for several recent years. And from what is available right now, it's the analysis of our work for the period second half of 2020 and first 6 months of 2021. So the numbers for this period are following. The external perimeter was broken into in 93% of cases by pen testers. So if you would take 100 companies, 93 of them can be broken in from the external perimeter. Speaking about internal infrastructure, so from outside, like I'm sitting here in the network and I can get connected to the infrastructure of that company respectively to where am I located. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're just a person with a notebook and the internet. You don't have any privileges in the company, you don't have any accounts in the company, you just start from the scratch, from the street, well, roughly speaking, from the street. Then, speaking about internal infrastructure analysis, speaking about getting maximum privileges in the domain, this number will be even higher. It's going to be 100%. So in 100% of the cases, you will get privileges on the level of domain administrator or similar. So, sorry. Which means if you are getting connected from inside of the company, not as a usual internet user which has a laptop and the internet, but you get connected, you have the access to corporate network, right? Then 100%, right? Yes. Moreover, I would like to continue your idea. Very often we have projects when we penetrate through the external perimeter and we immediately start making internal pen testing. It's a complex approach, complex projects. And in such cases, we, in 100% of cases, get admin privileges. Well, I should make a small remark. What are those privileges and what do they give us? I will try to simplify everything, but having these rights, you can enter any server and you can execute any software on this server. You can enter any workstation of any employee and you can execute any software code. Okay. In order to make it more understandable, for example, I have a file with salaries of the employees. So I have the file with all the salaries of the employees on my laptop, my notebook, and you can get access to it. Can you? Yes, if your workstation is in the corporate domain which was compromised and penetrated into, of course, we can get access to your computer and we can discover this file with the salaries of the employees. But if I have an access to the system of money transfer, if I have an access to some other secret information system, we can do observation over your computer and we can launch any software. We can emulate any actions that you can do on your own laptop. And I would like to make another remark, coming back to the numbers. This 100% number that I was calling in the beginning, speaking about the analysis of the internal infrastructure, this 100% as a number follows us all the years since our department exists. So the situation is not improving from year to year. However, attentive viewers, they have noticed that we are speaking about something that was happening 1 year ago. And this statistical information ends in the middle of the year 2021. Do we have any fresh information? Yes, we do. And right now we'll give you a spoiler because this analytical report has not been published yet. However, right now, if you will look at the data from the beginning of the year 2021 until today, the number of penetration to the external perimeter is also on the level of 100%, which means that every company, at least from our statistical information, any company can be penetrated into from outside by any person with a notebook and internet. Why? Previously it was 93% and right now it's 100% because you have improved your skills or the defense became worse. Of course, I highly evaluate the level of professionalism of my team, and from year to year, it becomes better and better. So, partially, it's a success of the skillfulness of my team. But on the other side, it tells us that the level of defense, let me reword it, is not improving. As you could break into many companies before, the same companies can be broken into right now, and right now we have this round number, 100%. This is awful things you're telling me about. Yeah, we'll cut it away. You can break into so many companies, and there's a lot of organizations which have access And they have a lot of important financial information available in their networks, which means that all of them can become victims of hacker attacks, which means that hackers can be anywhere.
Именно такой вывод. И
This is the main conclusion that we might come to after my story. And yes, unfortunately, this is the situation. Can you tell me, please, which are the most vulnerable places from the point of view of penetration?
Он обычно там оказывается.
How hackers break into companies, usually?
применительно к
You mean
периметра или
Да всё равно.
testing the external perimeter or anything else? Well, what is the most typical penetration tactics of hackers? How they get inside of the company? Well, I understand your question. Speaking about
настоящих злоумышленников, то есть
real criminals, not about ethical pen testers, and we are those, but speaking about real criminals who don't approve any actions with the company and they have certain money-making motives.
57%
In most of the cases, 57% of their cases
столкновения это
of initial penetration is using social engineering methods.
если же
Каких? Давай прямо раскроем, как
What are those? Let's discover them.
наиболее уязвимы. Потому что
Which social engineering is mostly applicable? Just recently, I had a situation. I get a call.
и
I get a call.
грубым голосом
And in a rough voice, without any introduction, person asks me, "Can you give your phone to your wife?"
жене
They've been asking me to give my phone to my wife.
делаю отбой. После этого
I stop the call, and then immediately they call me back from other numbers to my number. And this is also social engineering. It's not directed to penetrate into the infrastructure of the company, of the employer, but it's directed against me as a human being. And it was the first time when I've been attacked like that. And this is also developing.
наиболее уязвимые такие места в
Which are the most vulnerable places on the side of the social engineering and working with people?
действительно методы мошенников,
You are right. The methods of criminals are developing,
который ты описал, весьма вероятно был направлен
and this case was directed against your bank accounts, but not access to the company where you work. But speaking about getting access to
наверное, в первую
corporate infrastructure, first of all, I should point out methods of phishing distributions. When user receives a malicious code or the link to malicious code.
устаревший метод.
So this is an outdated method because phishing distributions, they've started long time ago, since Nigerian spam, when rich heir
Состояние как
of big amount of money of a certain prince which lives in some African country is asking you to participate in a scheme of money distribution, and in order for her to get this heritage, she'll give you $100. It's an old way, and people still are
до сих пор работает.
fighting for this. Yes, it still works,
Статистика.
and we do have a lot of statistics on these.
Два
And I will compare two
настоящих среза
far-fetching
к 2007
situations. For example, if you look at the year 2017, according to our statistics, 16% of users
так скажем, письмо,
which received the malicious letters, 16% of users
вредоносное вложение и
have launched this malicious code, and 11% of users
внешние ссылки.
followed external link,
Аутентификационные данные.
and they have introduced their authentication data.
20 и 21 года и взять
If you look at the year 20 and 21, and if you look at their statistics, it's going to be much worse.
получается, что
Worse, yes.
файл выполнял
And the launch of malicious file was done by 31% of users, and following the link and introduction of authentication data was done by 39% of users. So they don't learn anything. Yeah, they are even forgetting about what they have learned previously.
это с нами навсегда.
I think this is forever with us.
не был таким фаталистом. Я надеюсь,
I
что
wouldn't be such a fatalist. I think earlier or later our security will become absolute.
Однако, скажем,
and it will reach zero. However, it will still be viable for a long period of time. So the most vulnerable piece is social engineering, human beings, phishing emails, they follow the link, they put in some account data or follow the malicious link.
да, если говорить
Step one, step two, and that's it.
и
Well, speaking about the
которые
real tactics of real fraudsters who follow lucrative motives. These are phishing distributions. Okay, let's speak about different industries. Is the level of security and the level of protection against hacker attacks depending from which industry is this? Financial, manufacturing, transportation? Yes, this is a good question. Okay, let's look in this direction. First of all, I would like to tell you that it depends, first of all, on the company and on a team of IT specialists that work with this company. But if you will compare in wide strokes, if you will compare different industries, then perhaps
скажем, впереди планеты всей по
I can say that ahead of everybody from the level of defense, credit and financial sector is ahead of everybody.
очевидно,
And this is cognitively understandable from the basic point of view because financial sector involves living money. And when
может
criminal penetrates into a bank with the availability of certain rights to which he gains access, he can transfer through the SWIFT system to the account he owns or she owns, or get access to the ATM network and launch malicious file, which will give a command for printing out the full balance of the ATM.
позиции
But if you will look at this from the position of numbers,
сейчас активно
as you know, right now we actively develop the topic of resultative cybersecurity.
в чем
Я знаю, а может быть зрители не знают. Давай раскроем это.
Maybe our viewers don't know about it, but can you tell me about this? Yeah, with a great pleasure. Well, resultative cybersecurity, and I will tell you in my own words,
Безопасность ориентирована на результат.
it's the security which is oriented at result. But what do we mean by that?
В компаниях
Very often, cybersecurity companies are perceived as a certain type of process.
которые сидят что-то там.
There are some kids which do something with their computers. They have a small budget and they should continue and do their security. They will install antiviral software. But if something very serious happens with the company, and we've been discussing it with Alexei Novikov, when some inadmissible events might happen with the company, when big amounts of money are being transferred for the company, or malicious code will be executed in a source code if it's a technological company, then who's going to be responsible for all of this?
Ответственность со стороны.
So, first of all, responsibility from the side of top management. Second of all,
Департамент информационной безопасности как партнер.
Information Security Department as a department which provides protection from these situations, and not just formally on the paper, but actually being able to avoid it. That's what I call resultative cybersecurity, changing the perception of cybersecurity inside of the organization, increasing its priorities, and the result
Не
that non-admissible events will never happen.
пояснил, у тебя очень здорово получилось.
Well, it did work.
Хотел сказать, если
What I wanted to tell you about, if you will approach the question of resultative cybersecurity in a formalized manner, we have to speak about those events which should become inadmissible. For example, if hacker entered the bank, he will never get access to the ATM network. Or if the
завод, он ни в коем случае
criminal have entered the production factory, he will never get access to technological processes. So,
такие виды проектов, как верификация,
we do have a number of projects as risk verification when clients are coming to us, the factory, the bank, or any other organization, and they tell us we have the list of those risks which are inadmissible. Okay, let's look at whether you're going to be available to reach them in a certain period of time. Usually, this is 1 month. And I do have certain numbers, so let's look at them.
промышленный, ну, то есть
Speaking about the industrial sector, and I'm speaking about factories, plants,
можем реализовать
in the course of first month, we can realize 87% of inadmissible events, 87% of inadmissible events in the industry. Yes, speaking about the financial sector, speaking about banks, inside of them, this number will reach 62%. This is still a lot.
тем не менее, да,
But
получается он
nevertheless, it's still more than 50%. So we do have a big difference in these numbers. That's why answering your question, I can confidently tell you that according to our experience, the more protected. Financial organizations are more protected. What do you think? The certain measures are being adopted from their side to protect them, or maybe it happens just like that?
я не думаю, что это происходит само собой.
Well, I don't think that it happens accidentally. It's a complex of measures which are being taken. And it involves higher budgets in the IT sector. Second of all, this is a more proper approach to HR policy and to forming defense team.
Как следствие из формирования
Also, this is a consequence of team building, proper processes.
Вопрос я тебе задам, знаешь?
Listen, the final question that I would like to ask you about, not about companies, not about corporations, but I would like to ask you about humans, about people.
В принципе же,
Basically speaking,
тоже цифровых устройств.
we people have a lot of
В кармане телефон.
devices in my pocket. I might have a phone, and I do have certain things which I consider
Переписка.
inaccessible. For example, leakage of my photos, some banking data, access to social networks.
Важно.
Doesn't matter. Different people have a lot of different important information.
Как сделать так, чтобы
So, as for me, as for the person, how should I make these inadmissible events impossible so that hackers would not be able to find this key to me?
очень широкий. Позволь я
Well, it's a big question. I will give you certain basic recommendations. Everything else will depend on specifics of every certain person. Well, we are not going to speak about long passwords. Can you give me a more interesting advices? Well, Vladimir, you put me in a dead end. This is the first thing I wanted to tell you. Yes, simple passwords, it's a very big problem. Insufficient password policy. Passwords should be very complicated and unique,
условно сервис
so that if you compromise service A, you would not be able to use this password to compromise the service B on the side of the same user. So if the user,
не знаю,
Понятно, чтобы у
использует
меня один пароль не
какой-либо
использовался
I don't know,
разных сервисов.
да,
one password should not be used for all the services, and this password should not be in his work computer.
так, ну это первое, что я хотел сказать.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, we've been speaking a lot about social engineering. So we need to differentiate legitimate letters from letters which are sent by criminals. How? How can we see this difference?
В сабжекте там.
It doesn't say, well, in the subject, this is a letter from criminal. It's not a legitimate letter.
Как-то вот,
Well, if you suddenly receive a letter from Nigerian relative which offers you to participate in an interesting scheme on laundering several millions of dollars, it's fraud. It's understandable. So look at some doubtful topics. If you receive a letter with the
даже
attached file that you don't expect, and this might be not just executable file with exe or a CR, but it can be injection, even a document, a Microsoft Word document, a regular Office document can be an injection.
минимум с осторожностью.
You
Просто проигнорируй.
launch it in a sandbox, or better, ignore it and don't launch it at all. And, well, not speaking about phishing,
Интернета стоит
if the file was coming from the internet, you should look at it with a certain level of doubt. And your main working machine,
подряд.
don't launch all the executable files on your computer. And a final question. For example, I have an iPhone and I don't care. Do I live in illusion or is it truth?
По поводу
Well. As for iPhone, in our department, we have a department which is involved in the safety of mobile devices. Do you have an interview with Kola from this department? Yes, I do have this interview. I'm going to have. And you can address this question to him from your point of view of the iPhone.
Компьютер с определенным программным обеспечением,
iPhone is a computer with a certain software.
уязвимости.
And this computer has a number of vulnerabilities as well. So, speaking about
Публичные уязвимости, то да, на
public vulnerabilities,
определенное количество
iOS has a certain number of COE identifiers, which tells us that it does have vulnerabilities and they can be exploited by criminals.
Мы
Okay, thank you very much, Sasha. We've been speaking with Alexander Morozov, and we've been speaking about that any company can be penetrated, and not only the company, and any human, because we all are surrounded by digital devices, and iPhone is not an armor.
только очень
It's the same computer, but a small one and nice-looking one in your pocket. So please be careful.
чтобы недопустимые вещи, которые
And unadmissible things that you're afraid of in your digital world shouldn't happen. Be aware.